Hi, I'm glad you're here. This week I would like to talk about the predisposition to stress and cognitive strategies. And the text covers some of this, but didn't really cover cognitive strategies. Uh, in the Straub text, it talks about Selye's GAS model, which is the General Adaptation Syndrome, and it's figure 4.5 on page 99. And really, the bottom line of this model is not the event itself that creates the stress so much as it is the person's response that matters. And in this model, as you follow this model in stage one, the alarm stage triggers the fight, flight, freeze response. And the problem with the fight, flight, freeze response, and the problem being in terms of organizational context or even in family context or social context, the fight, flight, freeze responses replace rational cognitive strategies. So strategies we might use, such as collaboration or compromise to deal with stressful situations, turn more into fighting or avoiding. The text also, page 102, talks about the diathesis stress model, and it says there's two factors that determine a person's susceptibility to stress and illness. And the two factors are predisposing factors and precipitating factors from the environment. So the precipitating factors from the environment is what creates the stress. These are the events that they're the antecedent for stress. And then the predisposing factors are these cognitive strategies. And people, in their cognitive strategies, they can either be predisposed to stress or they could be more resilient. Now, AMOD talks about individual differences based on personality, where people can be more predisposed to stress or more resilient. He also lists, besides personality, gender as being a factor, saying that females tend to be more predisposed to stress than males, and even that they report rates of depression twice that of males. And a third factor is experience with stress, where a person who experiences a lot of stress early in life, such as abuse, may tend to react more quickly and more negatively to stress. AMOD also talks about non-work sources of stress, and certainly you can see relationships are on there, marriage and sustaining marriage, and then going through divorce is certainly stressful. Health issues, financial issues, and raising children. Financial issues since 2008 have also been pretty big. AMOT talks about working adult sources to include organizational change. If you think about that, organizational change today is ongoing. Job security, actually this would be absence of job security. Balancing family and work demands. A lot of organizations talk about work-family balance, but they don't practice it. Job relocation, which is an increasing factor today. Paying bills, increasing job demands. This would be job enlargement. Boring or unchallenging work. Pay inequity, which is still a problem for women in the U.S. culture. Going to school while working full-time, does that sound familiar? And planning for retirement. Since 2008, the economic issues, certainly financial problems, which include real estate value, job enlargement, as many organizations downsize through job enlargement, which increases stress. Absence of job security, cost of living, retirement security and employment or unemployment. The three cognitive patterns that I want to talk about are, as identified by Thomas and Timon, And by the way, they have an instrument called the Stress Resiliency Instrument that's available through CPP, which is an excellent instrument to use in organizations. And they talk about three cognitive patterns, what they describe as deficiency focusing, where a person only thinks of the negatives in a situation at the expense of the positives. They don't even think of the positives. And then the necessitating is when they get very busy and even overextended, and everything on their list they consider or they think of as I must, I have to, I need to, as opposed to considering these as choices. And then skill recognition, where they discount their own skills in a situation. They view situations as being based upon luck. And in each of these, number one, let me say these are learned behaviors, and there's a balancing question that can be used in each one to reduce the stress. For example, in deficiency focusing, instead of thinking only of the negatives, the balancing question would be, at the end of thinking of the negatives, to ask yourself, all right, now what are the positives in this situation, or what are the opportunities in this situation? And in necessitating, the balancing question would be, what are the real or true consequences if I choose not to do this? In other words, realizing that things are a choice, and that for some things a person doesn't because they don't want to experience the consequences, but it's still a choice. And then the balancing question for skill recognition is, what skills, what knowledge and skills do I bring to the situation that could make a difference in the outcome? So these are learned behaviors, and the balancing questions are used to reduce the person's stress in response to the event. Now, I like the work of Deepak Chopra, and one of the things he often talks about is that in order to form a habit, a person needs to do something every day for 21 days, and if they do that, they're likely to form a habit. And these cognitive patterns work the same way, that what a person has to do, they have to, number one, they have to decide they're going to change one of these patterns, and they have to be mindful about asking themselves the balancing question every time they have a response to an event. And so keeping this in their awareness, or being mindful about it, and doing this every day for at least 21 days in a row, then they begin to form it as a habit where automatically they begin to ask the balancing question without being mindful of it. Having done that, then that changes their cognitive pattern and decreases their stress response. The text, the Salsky and Smith text on work stress talks about the Yerkes-Dodson model. See, it's on page 156. And as you can see, the relationship between performance and stress is an inverted U. And what this means is that stress enhances performance, but only to a point. And so once you pass this peak performance point and stress continues, then too much stress begins to lower performance again. And I'm not saying that all stress is bad, because some stress is good, but too much stress is bad, and that's what we have to be mindful about. There are primary strategies in organizations for dealing with stress. You have the person, environment, fit model, and the demands control model, which both of these are covered in the Salsky and Smith text, pages 33 and 37. These are considered primary strategies, but in my experience, many organizations are not receptive to working with these models, or or are very limited in what they can do. So secondary strategies such as these cognitive strategies become really important. And we'll talk about other secondary strategies during the course as well. These are the sources used in supporting this lecture. I'll have them, I'll post a transcript that lists sources. Thank you.